brothers and sisters, in this month of the Sacred Heart, it's really good for us to really meditate on that heart, that most living heart in the most holy Eucharist. Recently I was having a conversation with a young man, and he goes to adoration often, and he was saying that he thought that the Eucharist was the body of Jesus, and it is the body of Jesus. However, sometimes our language, if we don't understand the full meaning of the words of our Christian faith and the tradition behind it, maybe it can be an obstacle sometimes to understanding the reality and the mystery of what those words signify. And when Jesus said, "This is my body," the words in the scripture and the Jewish understanding of body included the spirit and the soul. And when Jesus said, "This is my body," he said, "I give you my everything," not just like flesh, but himself. And it was a sign of, at the Last Supper, of a foreshadowing of the bloody sacrifice, the bloody offering of himself he gave on the cross. He didn't just give his flesh and his blood, but he gave himself. And he gave ultimately a revelation of his heart on the cross. "Father, forgive them, they do not know what they do." And he did it out of love, because he told his disciples that there's no greater love than a man to lay down his life for his friends. And Jesus was teaching those disciples that, so that when it came for him to die for them, that they would remember and recall those words, those powerful words full of divine life, into their hearts, and that they would be able to interpret what Jesus was doing, that he was showing them a way of immense love. One of the great titles I love for Jesus is Eugene Boylan's title of his book, "This Tremendous Lover." Just think of that. Jesus is a tremendous lover, an incredible lover. And so that speaks to his sacred heart. A heart full of flesh, a heart full of desire, a heart full of love, a heart full of wanting to offer himself at the expense of his very life for you and me to be saved. And to enter heaven, to open that spiritual realm, that door of the gate of heaven, whatever words we want to put on it. But for us to enter the most intimate life with God in all eternity. And so, in this conversation with my friend, I was saying, when Jesus said, "This is my body," it's not just when we go to the Eucharist, we don't just see the body of Jesus. We see him. It's him. It's him that is present. It's his soul is present. His eyes are present. His ears are present. His voice is present. Everything is there. It's just he's present in a very unique way in this whole new part of the whole new creation. And that's how he's present. He's present in this incredible new way. But he's in heaven. He's at the right side of the Father. Jesus doesn't leave heaven. Rather, at the Eucharist, when we celebrate Mass, we are really being brought to him. Of course, in our hymns, our devotions, we say, Jesus left heaven, he comes to the altar, he comes down to earth. But the deepest truth of the mystery is rather that Jesus doesn't leave heaven. He's permanently in heaven at the right side of the Father. But rather in the Eucharist, being Jesus, it's now we are present to him in the most incredible way, him in glory, him at the right side of the Father. And his heart, his sacred heart, is present in the Eucharist because he is present. His heart is there. And so, to meditate, just to be in front of the tabernacle, to be in front of that most privileged presence of Jesus Christ, and to hear, with faith, hear the heartbeat of Christ, to hear his love, to hear him breathing, you could say, with great love, wanting to breathe upon us like he breathed on those early disciples. Receive the Spirit. He's sending the Spirit right from his radiant heart, from the tabernacle, straight into our minds and hearts. And because Eucharistic adoration is the church teaches, Pope John Paul taught this, Pope Benedict taught this, in official magisterial teaching of the church, that adoring the Eucharist outside the context of Mass, so in other words, in a tabernacle, in a monstrance, in an adoration chapel, prolongs and intensifies all the graces of Holy Communion, all the fruits of Holy Communion that we receive when we do Adoration is like spiritual eating. So we come into real contact with the very core and heart of Christ, that heart full of love, that heart that revealed itself on the cross. And, Jesus has showed us this so many times through his own parables of the shepherd going in search of the sheep. And so he does this. He comes in search for us because he loves us. And the spiritual life is not so much our search for God as it is his search for us. And by arousing in us, by him searching for us, he's really creating desires in our hearts so that we could come closer to him. So in this month of Sacred, may we pay particular attention to the Eucharist and to go and to meet the humanity of Christ, to go and meet his divinity and his humanity, to go and meet his love and to draw his love from just sitting in just admiration and adoration that he's present here so I could be with him.